I'm a condiments kind of person.
Me too. Huge condiments fan. What condiment do you always have in your fridge?
There's a sweet chili sauce from Trader Joe's.
Oh my gosh!
It goes on everything.
Yeah, Thai sweet chili sauce goes on everything.
It's so good. Oh, I love it.
Pot stickers. Trader Joe's pot stickers with the chili sauce.
Yeah, the chili sauce. Yes. I had even just really simple, like some brown rice, steamed broccoli, chili sauce.
Oh, that's a great idea.
It goes on with everything. But yeah, pot stickers.
That's a great idea. And are you vegetarian or vegan?
Vegetarian.
Okay. I was trying to pick from your book if you were.
Yeah.
I
need my cheese.
Yeah. If you had to think what section of Powell's your book is in, which one would you guess?
Oh, weird. Okay. Well, it has self-help in the subtitle.
It does.
Which it was always shelved.
It might be the greatest subtitle that's ever existed, but...
Thanks. Thank you.
What a pun. What a pun.
I love a pun. I can't
pass
up a pun.
Yeah.
It was always with the role-playing books, which was, strange to see it next to Player's Handbook and Monster Manual, and they're like, my book. So I don't know. I guess they could put it in. It could go in like a memoir section. It could go in humor. It could go. I would guess at Powell's. I bet. I would say self-help, but I don't know.
Yeah, I only started thinking about this today, like where I would put your book, and I think I'd put it in I think I would put the book in self-help, because like, who was your target audience when you wrote it?
That's a good question. Who was my target? So I guess I wanted to hit more of the mainstream, casual D&D audience.
Oh, interesting.
But also write something that you didn't have to play D&D at all. You could still read the book, and like basically something my friends would want to read, because they were like, I don't want to read Confessions of a Part-Time Sorceress because I don't play D&D. I'm like, well, tough, because your friend wrote a book, and that's like the first rule of friendship is you read your friend's books,
Absolutely.
no matter what they're about.
That's number one.
Yes. If you wrote a math book, I would read your stupid math book.
Wow. You're a good friend.
I would do it. I wouldn't get it, and I probably wouldn't enjoy it, but I would do it. And I would pick out a few nuggets, and then I would say, I really loved how you talked about fractions. It was so exciting. I've never seen anybody present fractions quite the way that you do. You're so gifted. So I think, yes, like our D&D player, like a gift for your friend who plays D&D, a gift for your wife who does not play D&D, and kind of just reaching more of the casual audience. But it wouldn't be lost on somebody who does understand D&D and play D&D.
Yeah, so the first after I finished reading it, the first thing I did was I turned to my wife and I was like, you've got to read this book, because like it conveys why I love D&D in a way that I never could. Like, so the same feelings and like passion and just like everything is there, but your voice is like, I could never do something like that. So I was like, this is amazing, because it's allowing me to view why I love this game from a different person's perspective, and it was awesome.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. And it's interesting that you say that it was able to convey the way you feel about the game, because here comes
hi
my little. Would you like to say hello? Okay. Hi. He's the best. He's my little best boy.
What's your name?
What's your name? Quinn.
Quinn, do you want to introduce yourself to the world?
Do you want to be? Do you want to say something?
Quinn, can you hear me, Quinn?
This is Parker.
Yeah.
Quinn, do you spell your name with one N or two N's?
Two N's.
I think two N's is the best way to spell Quinn. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Quinn, I've read about you're gonna be famous from your mom's blog. How do you feel about that?
Great.
Yeah, it's a good thing to be there. I think that's good. What's your favorite thing about D&D?
How you get to roll dice.
Dice is your favorite part? What? Tell me, do you have one dice that you like more than any of the other ones?
Yeah.
Which one? You have it here? Ooh, is that red and sparkly?
Swarovski, baby.
Whoa. Quinn, that's awesome. That dice is it red? I'm colorblind, so I actually can't tell. Okay.
Oh. Okay, you want to go? Say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Quinn. Come on anytime, okay?
Thanks, bud. Will you shut my door?
Yeah.
Oh, that was nice of you.
Are you kidding me? I think we should do a whole nother show with just Quinn. That's
Oh, he would be for it.
Oh, he's the one you think that would be all about it?
Oh yeah.
And well, Quinn is what a joy he is, man.
He's pretty awesome.
It takes and if he does want to be edited out, feel free. We'll edit him out.
He will not. Trust me. He's gonna.
He's gonna be a star.
He has a lot of charisma. He is. I'm just gonna brag about my kid.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
He's very. He's very empathetic, which I think is an amazing skill, and one of the things that D&D can teach people. But he's just very naturally he's very in tune with people's emotions, almost to the point where he'll feel very emotional himself. He'll come home and she's like, what's bothering you? And hours later he'll finally tell me, he'll be like, I saw a kid on the playground ask if he could play with kids and they said no. And I can't get him out of my head. And I just oh my God. Okay. But he's very usually very intuitive and can just recognize that somebody there's the kitty. Sorry, distracted. Shiny object. No, kitty in the background. Kitty in the background.
B. Dave Walters thought there were ghosts behind me, so it's basically the same,
I love this. I just see tails wagging and animals passing through. You could have a webcam and I would just watch it all day.
I know. I do want to hear more about Quinn, so we'll get back to it.
No, we're done with Quinn.
No. I want to hear more about it. But with the animals, I've thought it's a conscious decision that I leave the door open, because I could shut it, but right. I like having it open because it's just how I'm proud of my animals. Yes. I want them to be a part of what I'm doing, And
as you can see from me, a closed door doesn't keep anybody out.
When my dogs start opening doors, I'm going to be very concerned.
None of our doors seem to actually latch properly. So even when they appear shut, if you are a pit bull mix, you can easily just shove through with your head, and the door will open. So
yeah,
he's never really kept out.
We had Nizoni, the old pit. We had to put her in the bathroom one time because she was sick and we didn't want to kennel her while we were both at work. We just crate train our dogs. We're trusting but not that trusting, and she was having diarrhea, so we put her in the bathroom, and she destroyed the bathroom. The door, half of it is gone because she just tore it up.
Oh yeah.
And she almost got through to the other side. She almost burrowed through the door.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah, I've had similar with my first dog. She had terrible separation anxiety, and she ripped the frame off of the front door.
Yeah.
And started digging through the drywall.
Oh my God.
Like you were talking about. Yeah.
Jeez. That's how Poncho is. He's totally that way. It's interesting you say that about Quinn. I feel I've always kind of been that way too. And then I remember growing up. It's funny now. We're gonna process through some of my childhood. I just remember feeling so strongly, and I would cry so much,
Yeah.
And I remember like I would be teased by people for crying and like told not to do it. And it's only in the past like 2 years that I've been like, yeah, it's okay to cry. Like, you know, like, and I think D&D has been one of the things that has taught me that like it's okay to feel things, you know, like that empathy like you're talking about.
Yeah. And I don't, well, okay, so two thoughts, because I think before Quinn walked in, I was telling you that when you said that my book helped you think about D&D the way that you think about it from a different perspective. But that was always the struggle, and that really was my goal with this book, is because I did not play D&D growing up. I wish I did. But obviously I was an adult and an employee of the company that publishes it when I learned how to play it. I had to learn how to play it. That was, I would not have found my way to D&D probably otherwise. Yeah. So, but hearing from people, so many people who have played D&D for years and years and discovering it as a child, these are stories that like, I don't have anything to compare that to. Like the moment that they discover it. And it's always like, I was at a Walden Books and, you know, I was 8 years old. I was waiting for my mom to finish shopping. And I looked to my left and there's this book and there's this big red dragon on the cover. And I just knew like there was literal magic inside. Or like it was summer, it was 1984. We were at my cousin's house and somebody pulled out the red box and I was hooked. Like there's like, it's never just like, oh yeah, I don't know, I think I might have been in 7th grade when I first played. Like no, like if people go back, like they literally go back to that moment where they discover it, like the smells, what they were wearing, your cousin's friend's brother named Jimmy, you remember the car he drove when he pulled up and like, oh, he was so cool, like walking in with his red box and
everybody around the table, you know everyone's name around everybody,
like you're, and like chances are you're probably still friends with these people too, you know, like there, and that is really like the game does that for people. And I always try to bring it back to something from my own childhood. Like what did I love Judy Blume, but I'm not like, I don't remember the moment like where I was when I first saw Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I don't know. I don't have it. So I really did try to capture what is it about this game that is so special that lasts, like just like gets a hold on people and is literally responsible for some pretty big life-changing, life-affirming moments in a lot of people's lives. Like it's like the friends that I still have, I have because of D&D, or I, you know, learned about myself through D&D, or this unlocked this creative powerhouse within me. And now, you know, I'm directing movies or I'm writing best-selling novels. And like, I discovered my love of storytelling through D&D. And it's like, what else can really say that?
Yeah. I mean, you look at like, if I look at who some of my like people that have created things that I feel very attached to currently, like I listened to your interview with Dan Harmon and I think of, you know, Rick and Morty, I think of Community and these, and like even like Harmon Quest, you know, like all these things. I mean, that one obviously is D&D, but Dan Harmon, like he has roots in D&D. And then you look at like Matt Mercer, and I mean, that's an obvious one. Same with Brennan Lee Mulligan. Like Brennan Lee Mulligan was a D&D player first, improv player second, you know, like, and so like, you're right. It has, so thinking of Quinn, he's basically growing up, and D&D has always been a part of his life. Like you and your husband are D&D, you know?
Yes, he is solidly of D&D stock.
So do you think he'll have a moment like that where he's like, but I don't know if it's a sad thing or if it's just like,
no, well, like a moment like that with D&D or a moment like that with anything.
I won't say any. Yes, he will have it with something, D&D. But with D&D, you know.
Well, okay. So I don't know how many episodes of Dragon Talk you've listened to, and I don't want
not
to
a ton.
bore you with
not
the
a ton,
same story.
But
okay.
Yeah.
but I have been a very trepidatious dungeon master. Like I had a couple bad experiences and then never wanted to do it again.
Yeah.
But I do want to do it again. Like, it's always been like I don't want to, but like I just kind of like
I'll be a player for you, by the way.
I would just stare at dungeon masters like, oh, I just want to do what you do. You make it look so easy, and they really do. But anyway, so very recently, we are very good friends with our neighbors, and they have twin girls that are 9. Did you hear the story?
No, I don't remember. Keep going. I'll tell you if I have.
Well, because I talked about it fairly recently on Dragon Talk, and anyway, I won't go into like super big detail here, but these 9-year-old girls, they are in Quinn's class. They're all really good friends, and my neighbor friend Carrie said, Maya has been asking about D&D, like kind of like almost like, my kid's interested in the D and the D. What do I do? And I was like, wow, like what are they asking about? And she said, they asked me if I knew how to play. She was like, I think they want to learn. And I swear to God, like I was like, I shall answer the call.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I was not prepared for the emotional response that I was going to have to hearing my 9-year-old daughters want to play Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if it's because they're girls. I don't know if it's because they're kids. I don't know if it's because they're in that sweet spot age and I just want to make this happen for them, or because we've just suffered through nearly 2 years of isolation.
Seriously. And who knows if we're done? Who knows if we're done, you know?
Are we in just like the middle of this, or is it like what's happening?
Exactly.
And we know that, D&D has obviously helped a lot of people get through this time as well. But I don't know what it was, but I was like, I'm gonna do it, and I did. I did.
Really?
But I had Quinn play too. So, and I made Bart, of course, play. And
those are 2 very smart calls to do that, by the way.
Yeah, like Bart was like, "I'll back you up. Like, don't worry."
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got a tangent here because there's a theory in recreation therapy. With like that, I'm a recreation therapist, so
I was just gonna ask, what do you know about recreation therapy?
Oh, too much. So that's why D&D has been so fascinating to me, is because the whole idea of recreation therapy is you do a game or activity to learn something about yourself. And so like the trust fall is a classic example. It's maybe my least favorite thing in the world. I hate trust falls with a passion, but there's a concept that you do this thing and it teaches you, oh, look, this is teaching you trust. But what you did is people will only... There's something called self-efficacy, and there's something that's like interpersonal efficacy, which essentially is if you see somebody who looks like you do something, you are more likely to believe you can do it. So like, so if I'm climbing a pole, like it happens like, and recreation therapy loves heights. So you just go up high because that's exactly why.
Okay.
All your barriers get torn down when you're afraid. You're showing a very real, true part of you where your emotions take over and your brain turns off because it can't think. It has to just like shut down and go to your body. So if you see somebody who looks like Shelly Mazzanoble climb up the pole, Shelly on the ground will be like, yeah, I could do that. Like, they did it, I can do it. But if somebody like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson climbs up that pole, you're going to be like, well, yeah.
Like, obviously.
Duh. So the fact that you brought somebody to support you in your husband, which is super important as a DM to have. And secondly, you brought your son, whom... these 2 girls could look at and be like, well, if he can do it, we can do it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that was beautifully done on your part. So how did it go? I want to hear about it.
He wasn't. So Quinn has played a lot of D&D adjacent games. He loves games. Like he's not like he loves games. But he has played Dungeon. He's played Dungeon Mayhem a lot. We couldn't get him to like sit down and play D&D.
Wow, that is so amazing. Okay,
and
I have so many questions.
Like, I know, and like, well, he's just like he's really into Fortnite, and of course, like when you're playing a video game, and it's
yeah.
just like constant movement. Things are happening.
Dopamine.
Yeah, and D&D is, you know, things aren't always happening. It's not always your turn. Like you have to, you know, pay attention and listen to explore sometimes. And I played with adults that are like, I just want to fight. Like, why are we talking to this NPC? You know?
Same.
Totally. No, I get it. Normal. But he agreed to play because Megan and Maya were playing. And the moment that you're talking about, I do believe both of the girls had it.
Really?
Now, the other thing about these girls is that they are very shy, like silent. Like it took them years to talk to me, and I've been their neighbor since they were babies. They're very, very shy. And they both were extremely animated. And like one of them chose to play a bard, and I was like, oh, how's this gonna go? She was just like, oh, okay, I pick up my guitar and I'm strumming and I'm walking around. I'm going to write a song. I'm like, oh my God. Even Quinn was like, wow, that's so weird because you're usually so quiet and now you're so loud. Like it was.
Wow.
And the other one was casting spells. And I remember playing with Greg Tito once. He was the DM, and we were playing with some new people, and he asked one of the people, one of the players, what does it look like when you cast the spell?
Brilliant.
And I
love
like,
that.
That's actually a really good idea. So I used
one of
that
my favorite questions.
It's such a good idea. Yeah. And I was like, well, what does your spell look like when it goes off? And she was like, stood up, and she was like, it's like this, and it goes like this. And like both of them, and like they were giggling uncontrollably. They were smart. Like they had great strategy. They like totally, I feel like as soon as I said to them, so this is a cooperative game. Like you guys are playing together as a team.
Did you lead with that?
Yeah, I did. And
Good.
They were like,
smart.
What?
Smart.
It is? I'm like, yeah. There's no winner, no loser. You guys are a team. You're working together. So they were great. And I do believe like they both were like something unlocked in their brains. My son is very showy and likes an audience.
Center of attention. That's me too. Same.
Yeah.
Same.
But he couldn't, like, he did not. I realized very early on, like, I have to give him something to do because he doesn't want to role play. Like, he doesn't want to hear the story and add to the story and talk. He's not going to stay on this trail and wait till they get to the Goblin Enclave. He wants to fight now.
Good instinct.
So I just I threw a mimic or something at him. I'm like, oh, like, there might be some milk and cookies over here in the woods. Would you like to take a peek? And he was like, yeah, I do. I'm like, it's a mimic and it attacks you. It's not milk and cookies at all. And he wanted to fight, and he was a spellcaster. And of course, when I asked him, I'm like, what does it look like when you cast Ray of Frost? And he stands up, he bends over, and he goes, I cast it out of my butt.
Yes, he does. I've always thought of the butthole as being the coldest place of the human body. I
can't imagine it. Like, it sounds painful, but okay. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, so when the spell comes out of your butt, does it actually like rip your pants open? And he was like, oh, he goes, no, just my underwear. I'm like, okay, so your underwear is ripped, but your pants, like, nobody can see like your butt. He was like, no, nobody can see my butt.
I love that follow-up question, by the way.
Yeah,
like, hold on, we got to figure out the physics.
Figure out the logistics. Like, are you packing like extra trousers with you? Like, do you lift up like a butt flap and let it rip?
That's a great idea. I would do a butt. That's my next character is going to have a butt flap for sure.
Yeah, to cast your Ray of Frost. So he ended up. The girls decided. That even though he was like helped, they left him in the woods and they took his money. They took his reward.
What happened?
And they said, "Oh, we'll give it to him." And I said, "Are you lying?" And they were like, "Yeah." I'm like, well, then you have to try to deceive, because I made it their principal was the quest giver, because somebody also told me, like, for new people you should root something and like give them a little touch of reality to like ground them into the adventure. And I said, well, your principal, you have to roll a deception check or something, like, to see if she believes you.
Okay.
And they succeeded. They were they were very cunning in their and Quinn just laughed. He was like, that's
Oh,
awesome. I'm in the
really?
way. He's like, they're taking my money. I'm like, well, we'll see what happens next time. And actually, there was a next time because they were gunning to play again. And
my gosh.
you
did a great job.
I'm not going to lie. Like, I think I was pretty good.
Shelly, I mean, no, you did, like, that is amazing.
But I have studied for years. And
But
I
only
feel
through
like,
observation, right? Like,
but I have also, like, we do a how to be a DM segment on Dragon Talk.
I listened
and,
to a few of those.
I've had amazing guests come on and share their wisdom. And so it was like every one of those people was like whispering in my brain. They're like, oh, give him a mimic. He needs something to do.
Wow.
And like, make them start in West Seattle, or like the neighborhood we live in. So
wow.
they feel like some like, oh, this is my turf. Like I have to protect it.
Oh, that is so cool. I want to do a game in Utah really bad. And so like urban fantasy appeals to me. And that's interesting you chose that to do with them because you're right. That's that reality grounding. Like
I don't know if they were going to relate to like, well, you're in this town of blippity blop, and they probably would like, they would have, knowing what I know about them now. I think they're all in. They're very into Harry Potter, so they do have some.
Oh, that's a good point.
Fantasy.
You can always do that too.
Yeah, you can incorporate all sorts of
this is
things from other books.
So I just recently had I ran a group for 6 people, and 5 of them had never played before, and 1 of them had played Pathfinder before.
Okay.
Which is a different game. Like 5th edition is so different than like 3.5, and like, they're okay. Actually, before I get into my stuff, I need to ask this or I'll forget.
Okay.
My job as a rec therapist is I basically, instead of talking to people about things, I play games with them. Games are my specialty. Like some people specialize in like physical activity. Some people are like arts and crafts. I'm games. Like I can basically any game that's popularized, like it's mainstream. I've played it probably over 50 times at work. Like that's what I do. And so, when I tell people that D&D is a game, sometimes I think it gives the wrong impression as to what it actually is. So I guess I want to ask you, like, would you call D&D a game or would you call it something else?
I mean, you and I both know it's more than just a game.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess at its core, it's a game.
Do you think so?
It's a game, but I think it goes above and beyond.
But why is it a game then? Like what is the reasoning behind that?
I don't know. I guess because of that it has rules, although you could say like, you don't have to follow.
Yeah. Every DM, every quote unquote good DM will say the rules are there so you know what you can throw away.
Yeah. And like even like the people who work on the rules and like this is their job. They're like, don't worry about it. Like, use them if you want, make up your own, just have fun. Jeremy Crawford always says the only rule you have to abide by is to have fun.
Yep.
So I guess because we have fun, we call it a game. What
okay.
would you call it?
Oh, that's a good point.
Would you call, I mean, it's not like, I guess it's like I don't know, because it's a game because that's where you would find it at Target in the game section.
Yeah, exactly. Just like your book. It's right next to your book in the game section.
It must be a game. But...
Also, I found your book in a section called Role-Playing Pop Culture.
There's a section called, because I feel like, yes, that is where I belong.
Better believe there's a section for that.
Was that at Powell's?
Mm-hmm. It's right. You have the games right here.
That's brilliant.
And all the role-playing games, and then you have role-playing pop culture, or it's either like TTRPG pop culture or just like fantasy pop culture or role-playing pop culture.
Amazing.
Yeah. I got so many books from there. I got your book from there. I don't know if you know. You probably don't. Karen Twelves. She wrote a book called Improv for Gamers.
Okay. Yes.
Incredible, and just like you know, all these books, The Monsters Know What They're Doing is there.
It's amazing.
I know, right? It's
Good job, Powell's.
Well, role-playing games have gotten so big that there are now, we have to look at it from a meta point of view. We have to look and say, like, not all role-playing games and not everything tied to a role-playing game means it's that game,
It's
you know?
like a game. Like, there's no mechanics here. This is just a supplement.
Yeah. So if
adjacent.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's TTRPG adjacent.
Yes.
Like, just like with video games, you know, like there's a culture around it. That's why cons are so big, right? Like,
yeah,
because you get to now go and you're not even playing any of the games. You're going in and you're listening to people talk about a game. You're not even watching a game. Like, you're listening to people talk about it and you're dressed up as one of those characters, and that is heaven. Like,
I know.
And that's why like I want D&D to get to that level. Like, I want like there to be events held where you dress up as your character and you get to feel like your character at this convention, and it's like only for tabletop role-playing games. Like,
yes.
That's the dream.
That'd be amazing to see, like, just if everybody just walking around as their character. It'd be like, I'm in like the city center of Waterdeep right now. Like,
yes.
Look at all like these cool like, characters and fighters and paladins and lords and
the shops are just the vendors of the cons, you know?
Yeah.
They're just on the street. Like, it is, I think it would be amazing.
We did an event. Have you heard of D&D Live?
Yes. Yeah.
So like an annual event, and Greg used to be the point person for these events. When they used to be in person, they were super cool because like we could create a set, and at one point they did actually create like a little section of Waterdeep.
Oh, that's so
cool.
like
the merchants were like Beetle and Grimm were there, and like Whiz Kids, but they had like really cool themed shops, and it was like a tiny slice of what you're describing, and it's just
amazing.
Like our hearts were bursting. So yes, I fully support. Let's just take over a town.
Seriously, right? That's why I got to get to Seattle. That's what I
Waterdeep, Washington.
Yeah. But when I've found that when I use the word game, it gives people the wrong idea. They think board game. First thing they think of is board game.
Yes.
And it's not. Like, it's not a board game, you know? Even if you use a mat, it's not a board game.
I know.
And so I've started saying, the best I have so far is like, and people connect with this, which is weird. I'm like, imagine that we essentially, it's adult make-believe. Like, it's adult play pretend. Like, so like when you were a kid and you just were like in your backyard, that's what we're doing, but there are rules for it, you know?
Yes. And dice too.
And dice.
Decide the outcome. But I usually tell people it's like a collaborative storytelling, but I always say game.
I say experience sometimes. That's the word I go for, is experience. Yeah.
Collaborative storytelling experience.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Because as well, whenever somebody tells a story about their past D&D experiences, they never tell them from the third person. They always tell them from the first person.
Yeah.
So they never say like, oh yeah, my character went in, and like, it happens every now and again, but a lot of times they're like, yeah, my character went in and like they fought a dragon. But it's more like, oh yeah, we had to like sneak in, and then like you can still say like my character or I like stabbed the dragon in the heart, and you talk about it like it really happened.
Yes.
Whereas like in a video game, if you're talking about it, you're like, yeah, we were playing this game and we like did this, but you're not talking about the game. You're talking about what you did as a player, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess even trying to explain it to people, they will almost always will be like, well, how do you win?
Yeah, like, exactly.
There's no winners. When does it end? It doesn't. Like, it's like, How do you really explain it? It is.
Yeah.
You gotta, I mean, thankfully now we have live streaming and like, you know, you can watch people playing it, which has helped immensely for people to understand, oh, this is all it is. It's just making up stories with my friends and being a super cool version of myself.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Do you use it in your therapy and as a rec therapist?
It's an interesting question. So there's not a ton of research on D&D right now in regards to mental health. There is some, but it's usually pretty small sample sizes. So like I saw the article you posted from The Guardian.
Oh yeah.
And Greg posted it also, I think. And then, but I'm a nerd, and so I'll go on Google Scholar and just look up like Dungeons and Dragons and D&D and see what articles pop up. And there's some pretty good reviews out there. There's one that I like, but it would be hard to justify if you're running D&D and can you see my animals playing in the background?
I do, and that's why I'm. It's the cat. The dog and the cat are playing.
The biggest dog and the smallest cat.
Oh, look at her go.
Get him. He deserves it. He deserves it.
Oh my god, this is so cute.
And she would run away, right? If she didn't want to play.
Yes.
And
he's being he's being gentle.
Yeah. See, they are so weird. You guys are weird.
They're adorable.
Did you know that?
I love that they're playing together.
They love each other.
Oh, big puppy. Okay.
I don't remember what I was talking about, so it's probably good they interrupted.
Research. Have you heard of RPG Research?
No, I haven't.
RPGresearch.com?
No.
Hawk Robinson is the founder, and he's been a returning guest on Dragon Talk. And he's amazing and a recreational therapist. And
he's a rec therapist too?
Yeah.
What?
And he has tons of research that he has housed here on the website, and it's all there available for anybody to look at and review. And he's in the Northwest too.
I should connect with him.
You should hook up with him.
100%. Yeah, I see your Dragon Talk in there. Oh yeah.
He's a super cool guy. Just does a ton of really cool things.
I should definitely check that out.
Yes, definitely.
Quinn heard that the animals were playing, so he wanted to get in on the
He's got a dog and a cat in the background, and look at they're playing right now. Hey, weirdo. You gotta keep it down. Okay.
I love this. I'm for sure. Thank you for telling me about this.
Yes.
I'm for sure gonna check this out.
Yeah, so he does a lot with D&D and rec therapy.
That's super cool. I guess I should ask this: Does Wizards do anything in regards to like sponsoring research, or like is Wizards involved in any like mental health research or anything? Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, we don't have like our own studies or anything, but I mean, we don't like fund our own studies on it, but we know it's out there, and it's pretty amazing to hear the stories and to hear from therapists like yourself, who do use some D&D in their practice. A lot of people use D&D when they're working with kids that are on the spectrum. Another wonderful person that we talk to a lot is Dr. Megan Connell, who she uses D&D in her therapeutic practice a lot. She works with girls, and she uses D&D to teach them about confidence and saying no and feeling empowered. And I'm like, yes, please use our little game to do that.
Why do I know her name? I don't.
She's also part of a stream of other therapists called Clinical Role.
That's amazing. Jeez, that's incredible.
So it's a lot of good stuff out there.
So many things. I have tabs open now for days.
Yes, I can fill those tabs. We are very lucky, Greg and I, to host the Dragon Talk. So we get to meet all of these people who are doing such cool things with D&D.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Dragon Talk also. Who would you say that
I
would
didn't
be?
Actually hit him.
I think you did. On my screen, it looked like it happened. So
he's practicing his theatrics.
You don't need to practice. You're already a pro, man.
Yes, he's a natural.
Who have been some of your most like insight, like the interviews you've enjoyed some of like the most, would you say?
I love any interview that talks about using D&D in some way out of the box, like the therapists that are using it, the psychologists that are using it, like, you know, rec therapists like yourself, anyone who is doing something with D&D in like that out of the box way that's helping people is like, yes, I can listen to those stories all day, every day. We had a guest, he was the youngest guest we've ever had on Dragon Talk.
Oh, really?
Is Ethan Holt, and he was, at the time, he was a 6th grader, and he did his passion project about why you should play D&D.
What?
And it kind of circulated around the internet. Ethan Gilsdorf, who's an author, and his book might actually end up in that RPG pop culture section as well, Fantasy Freaks and Gaming Geeks. He like reposted a link to his presentation on Twitter, and I saw it and I was like, my heart, oh my god, this 12-year-old boy was just out there like so passionate about D&D, and he was local. So
wow.
I'm like, we actually had a conversation like, is it legal to have a kid on our podcast? Like,
100%.
Can we?
Yeah.
But I reached out to his dad. He was like, yes, this is amazing. So his family came to our offices. His dad and him sat in on the interview, and we were a little nervous because kids are unpredictable. I don't know if a 12-year-old's going to fill an hour conversation, but
they will.
He did. And not only did he, but like several times during that interview, I felt like I was going to cry because he was like just so earnest and passionate and articulate. And he like just, D&D has really like filled something in him. It like was like, it gave him like so much confidence. And especially like, think about yourself when you were in 6th grade. Like, would you be out there being like, I love Dungeons and Dragons?
No, I didn't love anything in 6th grade, because if I loved anything, I could be made fun of for it. So you just don't love anything.
Well, like, hey, the 12-year-olds that I grew up with, like, if they were out there going, you should play Dungeons and Dragons, we would be like, nerd, go back to your basement, you nerd. Yeah. So times have changed, thankfully.
Bit. Yeah.
But
I heard the story as well about you giving books to the, I think, neighbor's classroom or something.
Quinn's class.
It was Quinn's class.
Yes.
And they were like clamoring over for the books. Yeah. Amazing.
Like, he came home and was like, Mom, you need to bring more books. We had a problem today.
Supply and demand became a real thing very quick.
I don't know if they knew Dungeons and Dragons and they were like, oh cool, I know what this is, or if it's just like the words Dungeons and Dragons are just like really appealing to an 8 or 9-year-old.
Yeah, so this is incredible. I think you'll love to hear this. So I work mostly in acute hospitalized settings. So these are like settings where people who are usually going through acute short-term experiences with mental health. Right now I work a lot with people with schizophrenia and psychosis. So like it's amazing, as a side note, it's amazing how quickly they like, sometimes they'll just be like, let's play D&D. I'm like, okay, let's just do it, And I'm like, I got some D6s here. We're going to use these because I don't have D20s. And like, and they're like, we want to play Zelda. I was like, perfect. You're all characters in Zelda. Like, everybody choose but one. And then like, they got into it immediately. There was no need. Like, and these are people who we would say are not, quote unquote, in touch with reality. Like, they also hear voices. They see things that other people don't see. But when you ask that, like when they've asked me to like play pretend or play make-believe, they're there. They don't need any like, oh, this is dumb, this is weird. They're there, you know, like there's no barrier. But I think the part you'll love is I've also worked a lot with like youth and adolescents, mainly like teenagers that a lot of times are going through an acute episode of suicidal ideation, or like self-harm episodes, severe self-harm. And being hospitalized in a mental health hospital is, if I had to sum it up in one word, I would say monotonous and boring.
I've seen the movies.
Yeah. That's it. If you've seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, sorry,
Yes.
Sorry, Quinn.
I know.
Sorry, man.
Not now.
I love him so much. He's the best. He's the best kid.
He said he loves you. He thinks you're the best kid.
Yeah, that smile. How can you not love that smile, though? I mean,
It's okay.
yeah, I mean, it's average at best. You know,
Yeah. You know, if you're into that sort of thing.
he's incredible. But in a setting, you can't leave. You only get to spend about 45 minutes to an hour outside every day. The rest of the time, you're in common areas with about 15 to 20 other people, people you've never met before. You sometimes have your own room. Most of the time, it's shared with somebody else. So what has been a phenomenon to me is how many of these teenagers say, do you play Dungeons & Dragons?
They ask you?
They ask me and they ask each other.
Oh. Really?
Yeah, like people just know. Like, I mean, if you look at me, I'm a white dude, middle-aged white dude with a beard and glasses. Like, there's a high likelihood that I play Dungeons & Dragons, you know? Like, because, and they just play. And like, they make friends with these strangers, these kids that society has written off, that are outcasts from normative culture, and they bond. And in the darkest moments of their lives, like if you've gone through a period of suicidal ideation, like I have, and I can say like there is no darker moment than that, you know?
Yeah.
So to be able to bond with somebody and have a game that allows you to do that is beautiful. It's beautiful.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That actually happens. They're actually playing D&D together.
Yeah, like and it's the perfect game. Like anybody listening to this, if you ever go into like a mental health hospital, like play D&D there, because you can't go anywhere. You're there 24 hours a day for sometimes a week, if not longer. Like, play D&D. Like, it's so easy.
And nobody's like, studying this group, so we don't know like what effects are happening with them. But I would bet that there is a lot of self-discovery. There is a lot of, the bonding that they feel in the game as a party bleeds out into their real life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, like you said, it's your darkest time. You probably have never felt more alone. And then you go to an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people, but yet there's like this beacon there that you can all hold on to. And that's going to carry you far. I'm not saying like it's the cure. Like everybody will, be in perfect health once they play Dungeons and Dragons. But like for that moment in that time of their lives, they have it.
And honestly, what if it is? Like, what if it is? I mean, for me, it's been life-changing. Like, I feel like I'm starting to... I feel like D&D has allowed me to understand my mental health in a way that nothing else has. Like, not therapy, not like even medication, not even like the things I teach, not even like recreation therapy, like D&D has done it.
Was it like things that happened in game that helped you, or just as the stories, or as the dungeon master, or the characters you create? Great
question. Do you host a podcast? Because that's a really good question.
Flipping the tables here.
What a great question. I mean, I'm like Quinn. If you if you ask me a question, I'll talk about it for 15 minutes.
Well, and I should say, like, this is obviously like a personal question too, so you can always you're in charge here. You can say editing this out or don't answer.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm a pretty open book. Like although people that say they're open book usually aren't an open book, so I take that with a grain of salt. I will say, so I'll approach it from 3 different ways, from all of those, as a player, as a DM, and on a meta level outside of the game. So as a player, I just got to play. I never play. It makes me so sad that I never play, because I DM, and
Right.
I love DMing, but I don't get to play, and I've accepted that. But whenever I get the chance to, I just chomp at the bit to do so. Like, I will play with strangers because I don't care. Like, I just want to play this stupid game.
I hear you.
So I got to play a character that I made, and I made her. She was my simplest character. Her name is Trix. She's a gnome, and she has pink hair, and she has a fanny pack. She's a wizard, and her fanny pack is where she keeps her spell components. Mm-hmm. And she's an optimist. And I thought, well, why is she optimistic? And then I was like, well, why is anyone optimistic? And I had to think, like, it's because when you're an optimist, you don't have fear. You just aren't afraid of things when you're optimistic, because that's at moments when I'm the least optimistic, I'm afraid. Usually I'm afraid of something happening, or I'm afraid I won't do well, or I'm afraid of something. And she's not afraid. So she, in our second session, because she wasn't afraid, she found some mold, and she grabbed it, and it hurt her. She failed her con save, and she took a ton of damage. And she was like, oh, I gotta study this. Like, I gotta find out more about this mold. This is the coolest thing I've ever found. So she grabbed it again, and she died. It killed her.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, this is not how I thought the story was gonna go.
No, she died. And as this was happening, I was literally moving from... We had just moved from Salt Lake to Portland. Like, I was unpacking the moving van. I had my Bluetooth headphones in, and I was connected to Discord. And I was playing D&D while unpacking because that's when everybody could meet. And I was like, I got to do it. I got to do it.
I'm not missing this. Yeah.
And so she dies, and so they're playing in Roll20, and the DM is rolling for me because I can't. And so it gets to her death saves, and she rolls a 1 on the first one. So she fails 2 death saves right off the bat. Yeah, and then I succeeded, and then I failed again, and permadeath. Yeah, and we're level like 3, so resurrection is never going to happen, you know?
Oh, no.
And then... Sorry, this is becoming way too long, but she gets a chance to be resurrected by somebody in the game. It's in Ravenloft, which is a horrible place to get resurrected.
Horrible place to die, horrible place to be resurrected.
Yeah, and so she, to do the resurrection, we're doing like a Matthew Mercer variant, my DM is. So people are contributing, and I loved it. It was beautiful. Like, people are like, she had a pet frog, so somebody like gave her the pet frog named Stinky, and like people did all sorts of things, and she failed the resurrection too. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So I never got to play her again. And I'm playing a different character, and this last week, I was really struggling with my mental health. I could feel it. Like, I could feel the, like, darkness there. Uh-huh. And I was just like, I can DM this week, but if I do, I'm worried what I'm going to give to my players is going to be too dark. Like, because that bleed is real, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just texted everybody. I was like, hey, I can run a game, but I'm not doing very well mentally. Like, if anybody wants to DM, that would mean a lot to me. And I'm going to cry.
Oh, no.
One of my best friends, we've been friends since kindergarten, me and one of my other friends, like, we all go back, like, we go back to high school as well. Another one that plays, and my dad is playing in the game as well.
Oh, how great.
Yeah. And, my best friend's like, I'll DM, and he just came up from Salt Lake, and, he came and stayed in Portland for like a month.
Oh my God.
Because he was able to work from home, and his cousin died, so he stayed in his cousin's apartment, and we just hung out. And I'm new to the area, and I can't meet with people in person. Like,
yeah.
I don't have many friends, and like, it just meant so much to me. And now he's willing to try DMing, and he said, you can play tricks again.
Oh, oh my God! Now I'm gonna cry.
And man, like, it was incredible.
Did you do it? Did you play her again?
Oh, I absolutely played her again, and
oh, I love this.
To have this resurrection then of this character that means something to me, like,
yes,
it was awesome.
And it's so significant.
Yeah,
like, just like, you know, the meaning behind it. Like, she's back.
Yeah, she's back, right? Like, and she was back. Like, she didn't die, you know? Like,
no.
So that was like a life-changing moment on the player front.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I'll go real quick on the other two. The second one is DMing. I think DMing is the best way to gain empathy ever. Like, you literally have to put yourself in the shoes of any NPC, like a million people every time you play, you know, like, but not only that, you have to, in real life, make sure your players are doing okay, like, as characters and as people. Like, because you're in an authority role, like, just kind of automatically you're in an authority role.
Yeah. And it does force you to pay attention to people, and to pay, like, not like their social cues, and their, like, just reading their body language, and just, you know, because that is your job, is, you know, to make sure that everybody's feeling included, and everybody's got a role to do. So you do have to be more, just pay more attention to those types of things, which is always good to do in real life as well.
Yeah. And how does the average person figure that out? Like, how do they figure that out?
I don't know.
There's
There's like a song they learn in kindergarten about
really
being kind. Maybe.
But, like,
I don't know. Daniel Tiger teaches them. That's like a kid cartoon.
Well, you know how people learn is they learn from self-help books. They learn from Stephen R. Covey, the 7 highly effective habits of.
But you got to put it into practice. You can read it, but then how do you actually put it into practice without role playing it?
You play D&D.
Yeah.
Because it's an automatically safe environment. Like, I mean, that's the hope. The hope is it's a safe environment. Whereas Stephen R. Covey's habits, you have to do those in an unsafe environment. So, like, because like, I've read a decent amount of self-help books in my life. My mom was also into self-help books. Not as much as your mom, not as much as Judy, but which, by the way, I really want to see Judy play Dungeons and Dragons.
So she did once.
Really?
She did, with my dad.
Really?
I forced both of them because they kept describing it incorrectly to people, and it's a board game, and you chase the dungeon master around, and you try to win his gold or something. Like, they knew nothing.
No, that's right. They're correct. That's it.
I made him play once.
How did it go? I want to hear about this.
My mom just, like, embraced it. She would play the dwarf Didn't I? No, I think I must have wrote about this for
You might have put it in the book. I don't know.
No,
I haven't. I got it right here. So
I don't remember if it was in there or I wrote it as a column, but I did write about it. And they, my mom was like fully like, I'm in. Like, what do you need me to fight?
What?
Like, let's do it. I'm like, I haven't even started yet.
Wow.
And then my dad was like, I'm only playing if I can be a pirate. I'm like, fine.
Oh no, this sounds familiar. I've heard this before.
And they were in a bar, and like my mom tried to beat him up too, and he was like, I don't like what's happening to your mom.
Yeah. See, this is the difference. This is why, going back to your game you just ran, when PvP happens to adults, they hate it. And it happened with you and your husband too, like with the bookshelf, you know? Like,
oh yeah, he was so annoying.
Exactly. But like, why were kids okay with it? Like, why was Quinn okay with that?
I don't know. He liked being the victim in this. He thought it was funny.
I know, and that's beautiful. Like,
that
is a mature response.
In real life, though, like if my party was like, let's just leave her in the woods and take her money, I'd be like, I would never recover from that. Like, that would be like in real life. I'd be like, we're not friends. We are not friends in real life. There's
exactly. Why is there that transference? But like with kids,
I don't know. And they just giggled about it for days after.
Wow.
They was like, oh, Quinn's in the woods. Even the second time they played, like he remained in the woods.
Wow.
He was still just like, I'm not coming out. I like it here.
So now this is it. So now they have to, this is like a learning moment from them, because think about it, because I've had those experiences in real life, right? Like if I think back to my childhood, I was like doing something and I got played a prank on me or whatever, and my friends just like left, you know, and I was then like, oh, I'm all alone here. What do I do? And like, so then now they are like, now they have to think like, oh, we just left him there. What do we do? Like, so then when they approach that in real life, they're like, oh yeah, we've done this before. We know how we can respond in this situation, you know?
Yeah. And if they were like bad, like if their intentions were bad, like if they're just like, yeah, we're gonna leave him. If they're the kind of kids in real life that would leave a kid behind.
Yeah.
And they played it through in D&D, if you as the recreational therapist, you know, or the therapeutic DM, however you like to be referred to.
I would love to be a therapeutic. I don't even know what that is, and I want to be one.
It's a thing.
I need to be that.
If you are, as a therapeutic dungeon master, are running that game, then you can have those kids that left the other kid behind experience, like you can play out for them like what it felt like, what it feels like for that other, or even like make them be the ones that were left behind, and they have to now feel what it feels like to be left behind. Like there's also that, maybe that's like too mean, and this is why I'm not a therapist.
I love it, because now it's also though like you keep on the meta, taking the meta level. When you play the game, you keep what you like in your own life and you throw away the things that you don't. Like, and the only other way you get that is through experience in life, and D&D allows you to experience these things without real life consequences. Like,
yeah, it's that safe haven.
It's safe. Yeah. Like if I did that to somebody in real life, like the only way I would learn to leave somebody in the forest would be like to do it in real life, and then I would have to then be like, oh, how do I as a person feel about this? But if one of my characters has already experienced this, it's like, oh well, now I have to think. Like, you just have to think about how others feel. How would this feel? And then that's very much it feels real, is what it feels like. It does.
It's true. It's weird that he didn't. Now that I'm thinking more about it, like, I mean, it must just be like he's confident and he knows that these two friends would never leave him in the woods, which is why his reaction to it was like, oh, that's funny. Okay. But I think also like just on a much more less let's dig into his psyche way.
Sure.
I think he was just done playing and he was like, oh, finally I'm out.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that.
He was like, cool. Yeah. Yep. I'm in the woods now. I'm going to go play Fortnite.
Yeah. And the funny thing was in my game where I got to play tricks with my friend, is she actually died again.
Oh no, I can't take it anymore.
because there were some magic eggs that she found, and she like kept one, and she was like, oh, I gotta keep this for later. And one of the other characters ate one, and she was like, oh, you ate one? Like, what was that like? Like, tell me about that. And he was like, it was a learning experience. And right when she hears the words learning experience, she's like,
she's gonna go.
Yeah, I gotta do it. So she eats it, fails another Constitution save, and dies. But it was funny this time because my friend who was DMing is like, yeah, you die, but you don't make death saves in this part of the dungeon. Like, it's just there's no permanent death in this part of the dungeon. And and it was like, okay, well, that's it. So I sat there, and all of the party like looked around and was like, anybody gonna help her out? And they're like, let's do our own thing for a bit. And I was like, what? I was like, no, it makes sense. Like, I totally get that, because she's annoying. Like,
she's high risk.
Yeah, and like because she's an optimist, and this goes now to my life. Like, if I was just like, yeah, like, yes, everything, yes, I don't like, I will say no to nothing, everything, yes, I would die.
Yes.
And like, so that's who she is. And people are like, why would we want this around? Like, she's just going to die. There's no point. But eventually, like, somebody's like, all right, I'll heal her and give her a potion, you know?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
We need her to come back. Are you like in real life, like not a risk taker?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm not, which is why sometimes I love to play. Like, I usually end up playing characters that are magic users, so they don't get into the fray, and that's kind of my excuse to like keep them safe. They're in the back.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, so like that's like the real Shelly. But every now and again, I do want to play a character that's just like doesn't think.
Yeah,
just does, and it feels wonderful.
Yeah, huh? So interesting. So you say you're cautious.
I am.
Okay.
Yes, I'm especially even more so after having a kid, but I was never like super adventurous. I'm just like, I just know me. So I play it pretty safe.
So why being a cautious, saying you're a cautious individual, where did working at Wizards of the Coast fall in your career timeline?
I've been there for like over 20 years.
You've been there a very long time. So like,
yeah, it was like, I don't know.
Was it like first job, like out of?
Oh, no. I had other jobs. I had, before I worked at Wizards, I was working in the music industry.
What? Really?
Yeah, that's what that's why I came to Seattle from upstate New York, because I had this dream. I'm like, I need to go work at Sub Pop Records. That's what I want to do.
Wow. I was also going to guess you were from Canada.
Really?
Yeah, it's the way you say out.
Oh, it might be in upstate New York.
I think it is as well. Yeah.
But I did work for a couple of record labels and
really
marketing and promotions. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it was. But it's, it's not actually a great job if you like music and musicians.
Why did you say that?
Because you see the seedy underbelly of the business, especially when you work for like a major label and they're just like putting out CDs right and left, and then like dropping bands right and left. Yep. And like I would find out like a band was getting dropped from the label and they were coming to Seattle that night, and I'm like, oh, they don't know, like they're just so like, we're so excited, like we're on a record label, and I'm like, you're not, and you don't even know it yet. Not anymore.
So you say I can't believe that you're a cautious person, like, because like your career choices are things that I don't think people would consider cautious career choices, like those are scary things to go into.
I mean, I was in my 20s. What did I know? It was fun. It was a good job while I was doing it, but I knew I couldn't do it for long.
Yeah.
Wizards, I felt like into, like so I always tell this part of the story, but like I found that I've been there so long that my job, I actually did use a newspaper to find my job.
No way. Are you serious?
Like actual classified ads.
There was a classifieds for, because you worked in branding, right?
I started in promotions, and it said like promotions coordinator. I'm like, I do promotions. That is what I do.
What?
And it said PO box something. So I knew nothing. I did not know what company this was. I did not know where they were located.
Why did you apply?
Because I wanted to change my job. And I'm like, promotions coordinator.
Oh,
here is my paper resume that I shall like go to Kinko's and print.
Did you put it in a manila envelope? Yeah.
No, I think I had like, remember how you could buy like different kinds of resume paper and the matching envelopes?
Oh yeah. Oh, you went in. Why did you go so hard on this job? Like what?
Because this is how you found jobs.
Did you do this all the time?
Probably.
Wow.
Like I think I had like an AOL account, but like didn't really know probably how to use email. I don't know.
No, for sure.
I definitely had email then, but I don't know why I didn't. I'm fairly certain because I remember specifically PO box. I remember because this Wizards headquarters is in Renton, which is like 15 miles, south of Seattle. Mm-hmm. And I was very snobby in Seattle. Like I'm like, I will only work in Seattle. Like I'm not going to any of these suburbs. So had they put Renton on there, I would not have applied.
Wow.
Isn't that strange? Yes, I was that snobby.
Yeah.
So when they called me and they told me about the company and the job, they were like, "Have you heard of Magic the Gathering?" And I'm like, "No."
Don't make stupid things up.
I have not heard of it.
What a stupid name. Who would name something that?
Yeah, you keep that little card game. So I didn't know anything about it, but they decided to interview me anyway, and I had to probably go to AAA and get like a printed map so I could find my way. Wait.
I need you to tell me then, what sets were you working on? What were your first sets in Magic that you were working on?
That's a good question. I remember Mercadian Mass.
Oh my gosh, no, you did not.
Yes, I did. And I am like, I don't know this, and please don't rob me, anyone.
Yeah.
Because we don't even keep our product in our house, okay? I might even have like boosters of that.
What?
I don't know what I have. Like, I have been at Wizards for over 20 years, and what if I have Pokemon? Like, I started.
Way. Did you work on Pokemon?
I didn't work on Pokemon, but when I started, it was like the peak of the Pokemon madness.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember which one I got into first because I never learned how to play Pokemon because that game is just bonkers for me to understand.
It's very complicated.
That being said, I got super into Magic.
Okay.
In 7th edition came out.
Oh my god, they're all coming back to me.
Yeah, right. So 7th edition came out, and 7th edition had a CD-ROM that you could learn to play Magic, and it had
I probably worked on that demo.
It had a Thorn Elemental on the cover of it. And God. I thought, oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
CD-ROM.
Yeah, and I learned how to play Magic from the CD-ROM.
All right, well, it did its job.
It did, and Odyssey. I think I actually first got in Odyssey.
Okay. Nemesis?
Yeah, Nemesis as well, yeah. And
I remember, like, we had a Valentine's Day because we used to do print ads.
Yeah.
And I wanted the headline to be like, "Screw someone on Valentine's Day" or something like that, which I thought was like so
that is so good.
I think we may have used it. I was
gonna say there's no way Wizards went for that. There's no way.
No, I can't remember. I know my boss liked it, but I don't remember if we could. I don't think we used it, but I kind of remember maybe they mocked it up for me. I don't know.
Wow. I want to hear so I'm a sucker for like branding and marketing and promotions. I know nothing. Like I haven't been trained, but I love like a good like tagline or a good like ad.
Me too.
Like even today in the grocery store, I was just walking around and I was like just thinking like, why do they put the wine in the meat section? Oh yeah, because and like cheese, because of course you're gonna have like wine. Because in Utah there is no wine in grocery stores.
Right.
And so I was like, And now I have to think, like, why did this happen? And it's like, it's just marketing, you know, it's all branding and marketing. So what are some like of your proudest marketing branding things that you've done?
I don't know. This is a hard one. I have to think back. The Wayback Machine.
So do you mainly just do Dragon Talk stuff now?
No, that is just like something Greg and I just do in addition to our day jobs. Yeah, he's the communications manager and I'm the brand manager. So
why did you get chosen for the podcast?
Chosen, or I just happened to be sitting in the conference room when they were recording? I don't know. I was not kidding when I said this over email to you. Nobody knows.
What?
Nobody knows.
Because the book is coming out soon, right?
Yes, and we obviously want to talk about the origins of Dragon Talk. So Greg and I were like, you know, trying to go back into archives and old emails and like figure out how did this even start. His entry into it is clear.
Yeah.
But Bart remembers how it started because he was the one who started it.
Bart was?
Yeah. Somebody was like, our podcast's like cool now. And he's like, let me find out. So he just like figured out how to do a podcast.
Wow.
And got enough, like someone gave him budget to buy like very basic equipment. And it was just R&D, just talking about the game and stuff. Somehow like people still wanted to do the podcast, but nobody would take ownership of it. Like there wasn't really a team in the building that was like, yes, you are the podcast people. Like there wasn't really a department that did it.
Yeah, because Mike Merles was the first host,
like,
right?
He was on there. Dave Noonan was on there. And like some of the like Trevor Kidd was one of the hosts, but like somehow it ended up going back to marketing.
Really?
Somehow. And I don't know if someone asked if I just volunteered, if maybe me and Bart doing that Dan Harmon one was really like the first.
That's the earliest. That's the earliest time I see you on there is the Dan Harmon one.
So, and then I was like popping up sporadically on other ones. So I don't know. And then at one point, it just honestly felt like there were too many hosts. Like sometimes there would be like 3 of us interviewing one guest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then one day it was just me and Greg.
Wow.
And he had some really good ideas on how to like make the podcast better.
It's so good. Yeah.
And him and I just really loved talking to people from the community.
Wow.
And just hearing their stories and sharing like, oh, you're doing something really cool. Like, oh, we admired the work you're doing. So we want to talk to you and bring your work to a larger audience. So that's kind of how it started with doing the interviews and focusing on, different people in the community.
So your job right now is marketing for D&D specifically?
Yes, and specifically for the tabletop. Like I don't do anything with digital games.
Oh, really? So what's the difference in marketing then on that front? Like, is it just like what product, like book product is going to look like, or like, and just, I guess how that's marketed is just book product then? For
the tabletop stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like books, accessories, anything that
board games.
Board games.
Wow. So anything fits. So the physical side, all physical side of things. Stuff. Wow.
Like, yeah.
Well, I want to say, like, I sincerely mean this. Just like thank you, because like it to come back from the Satanic Panic has to be some of the best marketing that's ever been done. Like,
or was the Satanic Panic the best marketing that's ever been done?
Oh, when does your price have to be paid? When does that contract that
Kids
you signed?
Are like, well, I can conjure demons? Yes. Grandma, I'd like to get this game.
You heard it here first. D&D is...
False.
The Satanic Panic is real. You heard it. That's...
They were right all along.
You signed a contract with some demon being like, okay.
I have played a warlock before and really liked
I want to. I never have, and I want to play a warlock super bad. That's the next class, I think, that's with the butt flap that'll be...
There you go. You can work that in now.
Yeah. I feel bad. I didn't introduce you at all. I just think I have had such a good time.
I have too. This is really fun.
Yeah.
We have so much we have discovered in common.
Yeah.
With our dogs and,
like when
beyond D&D.
When I was reading your book, I mean, I just like, I just, the one thing that I kept thinking was, and this, to give my opinion on who your target audience was. I feel like your target audience was your mom. Like, I feel like the book honestly was written to her, like for her. So like if she was like walking in like a bookstore and saw like in the self-help section like how D&D, like everything I need to know I learned from D&D, she'd be like, oh, I should get that, like I would read that, and I think I
don't know if she would have if I didn't write it.
I mean everything I was reading I was just like, yeah, this is it, like this is like having a theme for each day of the week is that's a therapy tool. Like that's setting a daily goal, that's a therapy tool.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like self-exploration. I think thank you for spreading this game. I mean, like
thank you.
I think you are underrated, and I think it's a shame. I do.
Well, that is very nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. Before we do end, we do need to play a quick game before we go, because I'm a rec therapist. If you want to get Quinn in here to play the game too, you're welcome to.
What's the game?
Well, we make it up.
He would actually love it. Should
Perfect.
I get him?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Quinny!
Yeah.
Come here.
Well, I'm naked.
Oh.
Are you in the bath? Oh, never mind. He's in the bath. Sorry.
Stay in the bath. Stay in the bath. Don't come
Do
in.
not come in here. No. Oh no, but Puppy wants to get out of the room. Look at Puppy's over there by the door.
Oh, he's so cute.
Let me out.
I love Puppy. Okay, so the way this works is we are going to invent a game together. So, what games do you like?
I like card games a lot.
Oh, you like card games. Do you have any cards with you?
No.
Okay, let's think then. What do you like about card games?
They're quick.
Okay.
Sometimes strategic, depending on what you're playing.
Okay, so you want strategy, you want fast. Good, we can do that. Let's think. What's another game that you enjoy?
Yahtzee. We play a lot of Yahtzee.
Yahtzee. Okay, you have dice, I assume, right?
Yeah, somewhere.
Okay, let's make up a game with... let's make up a variation on Yahtzee with some strategy involved.
Is this what you do? Patience? You make up games?
I have... every time you play a game, it should be different. No, you should never play a game the same way, I believe, every time. It's a personal belief. That's not a rule.
Okay.
Yeah, you just need one dice too if you want. We don't need
like
multiple.
A D20.
You want to do? Let's do D20. Let's use it.
Okay.
Use Quinn's red D20.
Swarovski crystal one.
There it is. Okay, so we need to make some element of strategy to this game. So maybe we could we could roll a dice, and then we could bet. We could bet points.
Okay.
And then we'll do it 3 times, and the person who rolled the highest will win.
Wins the pot.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can fold also.
Okay. So
in
a little
between
bit
hands.
of poker, a little bit of war.
Yeah, let's do that. So poker mixed with a D20. Puppy wants to play too. Okay, how many? We'll each have a total of 10 points. 10 points to
Okay.
spend. We each have 10
Got it.
points. Okay.
All right.
Ready?
Yes.
We roll 1, 2, 3. Roll.
There you go.
I can hear you.
We made up a game. This is our dice roll, and you have to decide how many of your 10 points you want to bet. Like that, we have a higher number than 10 points.
Quinn, have you ever gambled before?
Comes from a long line of gamblers. Okay, so how many points should we bet here?
You have 10 points. You have 10 points to spend.
I agree. We're gonna bet one.
Okay, I'll match your one.
Okay.
Okay, now we do a roll again. This time I'll bet first.
Okay.
Okay. So I have 9 remaining points. I'm gonna use a D10 to keep track of how many points we both have. So we're both at 9. 2 in the pot. So I'm going to bet 3 points at this point.
We match. If we don't match, do we have to fold?
I get your points.
Okay, we'll match.
Okay, so we're both at 3. There's 8 in the pot. We each have 6. Okay, one more roll. You guys bet first this time.
What? Oh wait, we have 6 left. It's our last roll. We'll bet 6.
Okay, I'll match at 6. Okay, do you remember what the total you rolled is?
Yeah, I wrote it down here.
Oh, good, because I'm like, I think I remember. Do you want to say first or second, Quinn? Who should say first?
Me.
Did you
do?
write it down?
I have it. I got it up here.
Okay.
All right, Quinn, how many points do you guys have?
22.
I had 24 points.
Oh, we rolled a 1.
I rolled a 1 on my first roll.
I didn't think we were even gonna come close.
No, I rolled a 1 on my first. I was like, oh well, this game's over. That was it.
What?
Then I got a 13 and a 10. So.
Okay.
Well, Shelly, Quinn, thank you for being on the show. It's been
Thank you.
such a pleasure.
It really was. This was
Really
so
been
much
bad.
fun. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. Anytime.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to plug before we sign off?
I think just check out Dragon Talk, the official Dungeons and Dragons podcast.
It's really good. I've been binging it, so.
Oh,
Thank you, Quinn. Thank you, Shelly.
Thank you.